Hello, and you are very welcome back to the Public Eye Business Podcast, brought to you by Granite Exchange. I'm your host, Sarah Travers, and throughout the series I'm speaking with local entrepreneurs and business owners to learn more about how their companies have come to be, to gain insight into their growth and find out how they continue to innovate. So wherever you get your podcasts from, remember to keep an eye out for all new episodes and subscribe to stay up to date. Today I'm joined by Simon Whittaker, co-founder and CEO of Vertical Structure. Simon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It's great to be here.
Right, as usual, a little bit of background on Simon and his company before we get into the conversation. But Simon has been working in the IT industry for over 20 years and co-founded Vertical Structure with Mark Dowie in 2006. So what is Vertical Structure? It's an independent cybersecurity consultancy with a human-first approach. They specialise in providing human-focused security and penetration testing services for web applications, cloud infrastructure and mobile applications. Simon has extensive experience helping companies understand how to grapple with the challenge of protecting themselves from threats and helping clients find solutions to their cyber security problems. So as you've probably gathered, Simon is a cyber sector expert and his perspective of the industry and guidance is highly sought after. In fact, Simon, you're also chair of NI Cyber. So before we get into Vertical Structure, what is NI Cyber?
Sure thing, yes. So NI Cyber is a collective of organisations, mostly based in Belfast, but we also have some outside of the city. And we have a mission to try to grow that over the next while. But we're a collective of organisations who want to work together to help bring cybersecurity to the fore. We want to help make sure that people are aware of why good cybersecurity is important. But more importantly, we want to help us smaller organisations compete with the big organisations. So we have groups, everyone from organisations who do cybersecurity and penetration testing and consultancy like ourselves, all the way through to people like Be Secure, and Be Secure do authentication through the rhythm of your heart. Really next level, really cool stuff.
Oh my word.
And you know, all of those organisations, they're all working together, and what we want to do is to demonstrate the value of cybersecurity to Northern Ireland and to the world, and to really kind of focus on this cybersecurity sector within Northern Ireland.
I know you're very close to the sector, but it is still a relatively unknown but feared issue, isn't it? And anybody in business now, especially with big digital transformations, are extremely worried about those breaches, and the hackers just seem to be getting more and more clever.
Absolutely. And one of the things we always try to do is to try to tell people, well, don't be scared. Actually own it. You know, try to work out what you can do now to solve that problem. So don't just stick your head in the sand and think that it's all going to be a massive problem. If you actually go out and look for these things, then you can fix them. So we work with organisations, everyone from two-person organisations in the Ormo Baths incubator to multinational, massive organisations, and each one of them has a mission. Our mission with all of those organisations is to try to help them to understand where their issues might be. We help chief technology officers and risk people to sleep better at night, and that's really important, because if you see some of these breaches, I mean, you know, there's a story that we were looking at recently with an engineering company. They found out earlier this year that they had been ransomwared not once, not twice, but thrice, and they weren't aware of this fact until it came.
And when you say ransomware, explain exactly what that means.
Sure. So ransomware is a sort of malware that it gets into your computer systems and it encrypts your most sensitive data. For a long time, it was all about the encryption, and then people started getting better at backups. What they would do is they would the ransomware, the bad actors would sell you your data back, essentially. So they would encrypt it, make it completely unavailable, and then they would sell it back to you.
Hold you to ransom.
Exactly right. And now they're getting more aggressive. They're getting more kind of hard on these things. And what they do now is they say, well, unless you pay us we're not going to just give you your data, but not give you your data back. We're going to release all of your data to the world, and anyone can download it. So that's the sort of thing that we're dealing with, that's being dealt with. And, you kind of see these organizations who, the targets are anything from, as I say, engineering firms. We've seen some manufacturing. We've seen some schools in England over the last while who've been compromised. There's a whole Italian city that's had ransomware attached to it. There've been stories of these large organisations, and it's an ongoing scourge.
It sure is. And who are these hackers?
Well, the term we like to use is bad actors. In my view, a hacker is somebody who likes to break stuff or likes to mess around and kind of take an interesting thing and work out how it works.
Are you saying they could be good people and they could be you?
And there are yes, absolutely. And there are these. That's the origin of the term, and it has become used in a more negative light over the last while. But the people who are hackers, in my view, would be people who like to see how things work. So they might be interested in how a piece of software works or how a piece of hardware works, and they go in and they look.
So for the purposes of for the rest of this, we'll not call them hackers, because I know in Vertical Structure you actually have some hackers and they do good work.
We do indeed, and we have some fantastic people, and part of our role is really to emulate those bad actors, emulate those bad hackers who are breaking things and doing nasty things with it. So I always say about our team, I'm really privileged to work with them. They are very devious. They're very kind of, they're very technically able, but they're also very personable, and they're very much able to talk about these problems and to talk to our clients about these problems. So instead of these people, and one of our team is a PhD in cybersecurity, another one is come from Napier University, and there are some awesome people, and they are absolutely fantastic. And their role, as I say, is to break things, and break things in a way that the bad actors will be doing. And it's up to us to get there first, as it were. So
the clients who use Vertical Structure, what do they come to you? Do they come because a breach has happened, or do they come to you to prevent?
Well, it depends. We try to stay away from some of the incident response type of things. There are lots of companies out there who do that in a more effective way. In order to do instant response, you have 24/7 call outs. You have all of this stuff that actually my team and I are not really that fond of doing. So we try to avoid those things.
Sounds too much like hard work.
Well, I like my weekends. But what we tend to find is that we're getting a lot of organizations who might work in a regulated environment, so financial services, or doing things with open banking, working with Financial Conduct Authority, or who have been trying to get cyber insurance and can't get it because they need to understand more. The insurance companies are now asking more questions. How secure are your networks? What are you doing? What's your approach to doing all of these these security measures? And the cyber insurance is getting more and more difficult to get. So people are coming to us to ask us, well, can you test us? Can you look at this stuff? Can you investigate? And actually, is
that required by law now to have cyber insurance?
It's not. It's not. No,
Goodness.
it's up to you. It's an individual. It's a choice. It used to be included with a lot of policies. It used to be included as part of a lot of those, and it's becoming more and more separate now. So we're finding that a company will go to their insurer and they'll say, "Could I get the same policy as last year?" And they say yes, except for the fact that cyber isn't included anymore. So, which can be tough, that when you think about the fact that these incidents can cost a lot of time and a lot of money.
So you can get your customers cyber secure, I suppose, and then be able to demonstrate to the insurance companies that it's okay.
Exactly, cyber insurance ready, and we can do that in a number of different ways. We help people to get things like, very dull, but ISO 27001. I could throw 3-letter acronyms at us until the cows come home. But things like ISO 27001, Cyber Essentials Plus. These are the last two are UK government standards, and that proves to people that you're actually trying to think about cybersecurity, and that's really important.
I want to go back a little bit. Sure. I should have probably done this at the start, but you've been in IT for over 20 years. Did you think about cybersecurity then?
No. And actually, my beginning wasn't in cybersecurity or in in tech. Actually, in 1998, I graduated from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in stage management and theatre production.
Of course you did.
Which
Why was that missing from the intro?
which is quite a long way from what I'm doing now. But I was lucky enough to get a job over here in Belfast at the old Lyric Theatre before it was knocked down, and it was a great venue, really lovely place to be. You couldn't flush the toilet while the cast were on stage, otherwise the audience could hear it in the back row. But apart from that, it was lovely. Within 2 hours of landing, I met my wife, and that's it.
Within 2 hours of landing?
Pretty much. Yes.
Where did you meet her?
At the theatre. She was working there as well. So it's it's just it's been 24 years, and it just seems to have gone by in a snap.
This podcast is sponsored by Granite Legal Services, a niche business and immigration law practice located in the heart of Newry City. Granite Legal Services provides legal advice to both individuals and companies alike across a wide range of industries, from employment, commercial or corporate law matters to immigration law. Granite Legal Services focuses on providing legally sound, practical advice to its clients. To get in touch, visit www.granitelegalservices.co.uk or contact 028 3026 2200. Where did the IT come in then?
So I found that I didn't enjoy working in the theatre as much as I enjoyed going to the theatre. So I decided I wanted to try and find a different way out. I was lucky in the fact that the work as a stage manager, it's different hours. So I did some Open University courses. I retrained. I learned how to develop software. I'd always loved working with computers. So I went and did some courses in C++ and Java development and all these things that you start to learn. And then I blagged a job, is the terminology, I think. So I managed to get myself a job, and that was in 2000, I think it was, something like that. And that was working as a software developer. And my kind of interest in cybersecurity didn't emerge for another couple of years, but we were working with that organisation. We were working with some of the world's largest oil and gas companies, and security was never mentioned. Security was just a thing that happened, and everyone thought, no, it'll be grand, don't be worrying about it. And then we started working with a Russian oil and gas company. And the first question that they asked us, this was in 2006, the first question they asked us was, have you ever had a security or penetration test? And we said, no, but don't worry, we're really good at this stuff. It won't be a problem. About 3 minutes into the test starting, we were proven very, very wrong. They broke our stuff. They broke into it by the Russians. They broke into everything. They were within 20 minutes. They actually had to stop because they'd broken into so much stuff they couldn't get any further. And so
when you say broken, they got their hackers who were doing it to test this to test your system.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
no bother.
And no bother. I mean, they were in within minutes, within seconds, actually. And
so did the light bulb go on at that point?
Absolutely. So I was privileged enough to be tailing the logs. I was looking at seeing what was going on, and I thought, I understand why that's working. I understand that they're joining these things together, that they're really good at doing this. And I managed to kind of think, I can see why that's working. And again, as you say, it was a light bulb moment. It was one of those things where I just thought, I want to do that. How do I learn how to do that?
Okay, so you learned the hard way, but then also were presented with a business opportunity. How then did you build on that, and how did you actually begin a business, and how easy was it to sell what you did? Yeah,
so back then, I mean, my friend Mark and I, we started a company, and we did some small bits and pieces. We originally started off doing some hosting stuff and some bits and pieces around that, and it was round about 2011, I think it was, and my chap I knew, who's now a very good friend of mine, Tara Simpson from Instill Software, he said he knew that we were working a little bit in the security space, and he said, do you think you could create a course about breaking stuff? And I said, yes. And so we did, and we started doing that, and that enabled us to help us get through to start doing security and penetration testing full time, into training, into the consulting area as well. So we were we started off just with a bit of an idea. We started off with no money. We've never had any investment. We've never done any kind of rounds of funding or any of that sort of stuff. Our stuff has always been, we raised it ourselves, and when we started off, we both had kind of other jobs, and we were doing stuff in the evenings, and we had an agreement that when we reached a certain amount of money in the bank, one of us would jump ship and go full time, and when we reached another amount of money, the other one would jump ship.
So who went first?
I did.
Okay, you couldn't wait.
Yeah, exactly.
And were you working from home at this point, or did you
yes.
have an office?
Oh, yeah. No, we didn't have an office yet. We actually didn't get an office till 2013 or 2014, I think it was.
Do you need an office?
Well, we have an office, and I really love going into the office, but I also love the flexibility of being able to work remotely. Working in tech means that you can do pretty much everything.
And have a
everything
great
remotely.
work-life balance, as we all find out. You were keeping it secret from the rest of us.
Exactly. And it means I can, spend time with my children. I'm going to pick up a child from, I think, basketball practice at some point in the next wee while. And, it means that you get those opportunities to do things you wouldn't necessarily be able to do. So we have that balance, and I love that balance. And, in our office, we tend to get people coming in a couple of days a week. We don't force people to come in. We hope to encourage them. We like to try and buy people lunch when they come in. We like to try and do nice things. We like to try to, kind of actually spend time together. So you're not just coming in to do Zoom calls. You're coming in to have a chat with me about what we're planning on doing for the next month, to have a chat about, with one of your colleagues about the next stages in a project. So
it's about that face-to-face interaction. And I suppose when I think of the stereotypical techie person, the stereotype is we don't do face-to-face talking. But do you think that they do enjoy it whenever they come in?
Yes. So we have different sorts of people in our teams, and we have some people who are I'll use the C word, consultants, who they would be more keen on coming in and seeing people, and then we have some of the tech people who love nothing more than working from home and or working remotely, and they come in every so often. We get to see them and we get to see their faces, but we all connect each day in multiple different ways. So we're all talking to each other on Slack 8 hours a day, 7.5 hours a day, whatever it is. We do calls at the drop of a hat. We kind of communicate in those ways. So we do find that some of the technical people do prefer to stay away, but that's just the way things are.
Well, you've obviously got a team in place now. You have got that bricks and mortar structure to go into if required. But back when it was just you and Mark and you jumped ship, was the money starting to come in thick and fast at this point?
So back then, they were good jobs. There were we were turning over a small amount of money, and I think for a while Mark and I treated it a little bit like a lifestyle business. I don't know if that's the right word, but it was very much kind of around. It was very much, it'll just be the two of us, and I'll do this job, and then you send those invoices out.
We don't want to employ people.
It's hard work employing people, But actually, we found out over the few years. Firstly, Mark, didn't enjoy working from home on his own, sitting in front of a computer all day. I didn't either. I like speaking to people, as you can probably tell. I like going out and talking to people, and so we decided that would be our first step. Let's get an office, and we'll get that. And it was a small office in City East in Belfast, on the corner there, just by Short Strand, and we were in there for, it was a very small room, and it was just us, and then we managed to get our first employee, a chap called Rob, who still is very close to us. He's still a brilliant person. He's decided very foolishly to move on, but he's he's gone on to massive companies doing really interesting things, and it's been great to see him grow and to see him come along.
So why vertical structure? Where does the name come from?
Well, the name is, and to be fair, I wrote down on my notes, I hate this question. So
sorry about that. I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, and you should do. It actually comes originally from, when we first started the company, we were doing some hosting work, and you see servers stacked up in a row, in a data center. They're all stacked in lines, and they're stacked upwards like that, so like a vertical structure of
it's a good name.
Yes, if you're doing that sort of thing. I mean, we should probably call ourselves like Cybercast or something like that. But
maybe a rebrand.
Well, no. Do you know, I also think that people know who we are. It's a slightly different name. It's slightly, kind of, it doesn't necessarily mean anything in that space.
And you stand out then from other cyber companies?
There are if you look in through the list of cyber companies in the UK and Ireland, the C is CY. There are an awful lot of them.
Right.
So
but whenever you first started, there perhaps weren't as many.
Absolutely, and actually even the term cybersecurity.
What did it mean? It was just a scary thing. It's like aliens.
I actually remember. I remember kind of hearing it first, and I was like, "Do I work in cyber?" I thought I did security. I wasn't sure what it actually meant. It was a different terminology than I'd been used to, and it started being used an awful lot. We came across it with the with CSIT at Queen's, which was one of the formulative bits of cybersecurity in Northern Ireland with the ESIT Institute down there.
That's right.
And it started being used an awful lot, when I was hearing about them. And, the term didn't mean anything really. And then suddenly it started to mean everything. And we were, we found ourselves that there were suddenly more and more organizations. There's people doing, there's a company over there and, they're interested. And then people like Allstate, which used to be, I think, Northbrook Technology. I seem to remember. I think it was back in the day. Allstate brought their cyber team to Northern Ireland.
Thanks.
But they brought their whole cyber team, run by an amazing chap called Keith Lippert, who I don't know if you know Keith, but yes, he's an absolutely brilliant chap, and his kind of. They employ more cyber people in Northern Ireland than they do in the United States. They have more people there than they do here.
And what about the skills? What about the skills here? Can we fill all these jobs, or are we having to recruit elsewhere?
Well,
from elsewhere.
I will tell you, and I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. We are currently hiring. So if anyone out there is listening and would like to get a little bit of experience in working in cyber, we're hiring for people. We're trying to grow. We're looking for more people to come and join us.
And who are you looking for?
So we're looking for security and penetration tester and a
good hackers.
Yes, exactly. People with a inquisitive mind, I think, is the way I would describe it.
Do you need a degree?
No. Gosh, no.
Oh,
no.
What do you need?
You need to. So what we are planning for our recruitment efforts over the next wee while is to run kind of like a CTF, a capture the flag, which is a technical test basically. So what we'll do is we will give people a broken web application and we'll say, here it is. Let's see how good you are. Or we'll look at things like their hack in the box score, or there are various sites out there. That's what we're really interested in.
This blows my mind. You see, I don't understand any of this. I'm thinking of loads of people that could do a Rubik's Cube really quickly or something.
We'd love that. People who are interested and and are interesting. And
do you need to know how to code and all of that?
I always say, I come from a development background originally, and I found that some of the best penetration and security testers I've come across have been coders. And the reason for that is that once you've learned how to build an application, then you learn how to break it. Okay. You know where you were lazy. You know where the bodies were buried. You know where you've left all of these things. And
so that's where the weakness is. That's what happens. It's a badly built or a sloppy bit of code or what?
I tend to find what we tend to find is it's lots of small issues. So, it's lots of small issues that build into a larger issue is where the real danger will lie. Because you think, it's just a small issue there, or there's a small issue there. We'll fix that in the next build. We'll get that sorted. We'll get it done. So we find that what our team do, and, when the penetration testers are looking at this, their minds work in a way that they say, there's a vulnerability. I join that together with this small vulnerability and that small vulnerability. And before you know it, you've got this massive way into these applications. So
now, who are your typical customers?
So our customer, it's very difficult. I was actually looking at a list of some of our customers earlier, and it's difficult to define them. I mean, we work with some very large manufacturing firms. We work with people who have come up with some fantastic ideas in the Ormo Baths, in the Barclays lab in there. Two people with a great idea. We worked with a company last year who started off with, I think it was 3 people, and then they got bought for a significant amount of money, they were a customer of ours until they got bought. So we work with financial services. We work with insurance companies. It tends to be a lot of tech, but but everywhere is tech now. That's
That's
thing.
what I was going to say. So if anybody was listening now and they were an estate agent, or they were an accountancy firm, or they ran a private practice where they had lots of people's information, credit card details, that kind of thing, should they be calling you?
Well, I think so, obviously, but no.
But why?
But I really do think it's important. So one of the things about, so say for instance, a firm that holds lots of personal data. One of the things about that personal data is it's not yours. You're processing it on behalf of the person who owns it, which is the data subject, which is the person. So my view is that you have a responsibility. So it's up to you to decide how you process that data and what you're doing with it and telling people and things like that. But it's your responsibility to look after it. If it gets compromised, then that's your responsibility.
So you're liable.
You could be, and the Information Commissioner's Office, in the UK, and the Data Protection Commissioner in the South, if something was to happen to that data, they will investigate.
Well, we all got terribly scared around GDPR, didn't we? And that was suddenly everybody was being informed, and you had to tell people if there were cookies on your site and all of these algorithms, and your phone's listening to you and all of these things. But if there was just somebody listening to this today, what 3 tips would you give them to keep them safe?
Okay, and actually we run an event on a first Tuesday of the month called Cyber Tuesday, and where we invite people along and we talk about exactly these sort of things.
Online or face to face?
Online.
Okay.
So anyone can come along and join. If they get in touch, we treat it as a bit of an exclusive event for our clients, but we will invite others along if there's interest in it. And at that we talk about all the things that have been happening in cybersecurity over the last while. So that's something to think about.
Great. So how could people get in touch?
So if they email us at hello@verticalstructure.com, we'll get them sorted out with coming along for a taster session, as it were.
Super.
If I was to give three things of advice, three pieces of advice around keeping you and your company secure, the first one would be multi-factor authentication. And multi-factor authentication is when you use a username and password and also a 6-digit code from your phone. You know that you've seen it with the bank. You've seen it. Put that on your Microsoft 365, on your Google Suite. That's a really good start.
And how do you do that?
So there are plenty of guides out there. It will say, if you go into the security tab of any of these organizations, they will say switch on MFA. It is the number one thing that you can do. The PSNI, there's a fantastic Protect officer in Northern Ireland, Sam Kincaid, and his advice and his experiences that we kind of chat fairly regularly. He sees this all the time as well, and it's multi-factor authentication would be the first one. Use a password manager or have effective passwords would be the second one. So don't have a rubbish password. If your password is password 01 and you're listening to this podcast, switch it off and go and change it immediately.
What about password 01 with an exclamation mark?
Again, please stop immediately. But yes, that would be the...
I'm scribbling, folks, here.
That would definitely be a good piece of advice. And I think the third one would be to really try to consider how you protect your computer. So, if you're a business, hopefully your managed service provider or your IT people are taking care of things like antivirus and, making sure that when you're working remotely, you've got a good VPN connection in place to allow you to make sure that your systems are secure. Those 3 things are very good, but the best thing is is a defense in depth. So it's using, we have 5 tips we give out in the training. Okay, yeah. And it's that kind of Swiss cheese approach that, each one is a different layer, and you hope that, the hole never goes all the way through, as it were. The holes never align, and your phishing prevention protects it, or your training prevents it, or your multi-factor prevents it, and, you have that defense in depth.
So not just one thing.
Not just one, all of them.
You've done all of this, or you hadn't up until now, and there's been a breach. What do you do?
So first thing,
what should you look out for as well? Actually, before you get the breach, what do you look out for?
What I would say is the most important thing is to be prepared. Right. So one of the things we do is we run cyber exercising things with clients, cyber exercising sessions with clients, where we actually look at how you would respond. So in the case of large firms, we get the C-level board people together and we say, there has been a ransomware incident potentially detected in your systems. Go. What do you do? Where are your files? Where are your documents? How do you know who to contact? How do you know what your insurance details are? Who your insurers are? All of these things, and you start from there, and you kind of plan through. We have used the NCSC's exercise in a box to help us to do this sometimes with some clients, and it's which is a free resource available from the National
Exercise
Society.
in a box.
Exercise in a box, and it helps you to understand how to respond to these issues. So preparation is the first thing I would say. So it's easier to do these exercises on a Tuesday afternoon at lunchtime than it is at 3 a.m. on a Sunday, and that's an absolutely vital thing. So work out what you would do.
Be prepared as well, and then if something looks odd,
tell somebody. Talk to your IT people.
What if you're a sole trader or you're a very small company and you haven't got anyone to talk to? So actually, and it's a very interesting thing. So firstly, if you're a sole trader, if you're a small SME, the PSNI Protect officer is there to help you. He's a brilliant chap. He's a really, really good guy, and he goes and speaks at various events. He goes and meets companies, hopefully before they get breached, but also afterwards, and he will help you out. He's going to help every single person.
Well, this is the thing. There is only him.
You're not giving out his number.
No, definitely not.
999.
But there is only him. But he is so generous with his time, and he goes and speaks at so many events and gives great advice. So I would suggest having a chat with Sam from the Protect side of things, and I think also there's things that you can do that, buy an antivirus, buy something that will actually help to detect these things. There are ways out there.
Are they all the things you find in your junk emails and everything, all these things that have tried to get through in that?
Yeah, so you
spam
probably have a lot of those, I think I cleared out 200 of them today. And actually we were chatting with the client just yesterday, and as I pulled up at home, they phoned up and said, we've just found that we've been a victim of one of these invoice redirection frauds, and it happens every day.
And they are becoming much more advanced, aren't they? You'd get an email in and there would be a spelling mistake or something just didn't look quite right. Now you've got everybody impersonating the HMRC.
Absolutely.
You've got your bank with the logo, with everything correctly ringing you, contacting you with very posh voices and telling you, what's all this about?
And actually, it's the scammers have been listening to the training that we deliver. They've been listening to it. They know that badly spelled or poor punctuation or poor grammar or anything like that is not going to be possible anymore. So they have got significantly better, and it's fascinating to see. I mean, it really is very, very interesting to see how good they've got. The best ones we find tend to be quite targeted. So the really good ones are things like, for instance, I post on LinkedIn that I'm going to a conference in X, Y, or Z. While therefore I'm listed as being away. While I'm away, someone sends an email to one of my team and says, "Would you go out and buy me some vouchers to do X, Y, or Z?" That's what they would do. So they will know that I'm away. They'll know that I'm not in the office, and they'll therefore be able to target.
Goodness!
So there is that targeting.
So if you put an out of office on.
Yes, well, I would say it's more of a
public post.
It's more of an invest. So
they used to say that even on Facebook, if you were going on holidays,
absolutely.
you don't post the pictures of the pina coladas.
Yeah.
Yes, the burglars would be around.
Absolutely, the pints at the airport at whatever time.
For 3 weeks.
Yes, exactly.
Out of office is on.
Exactly. So so it's important to be aware of those things and just try to protect yourself.
Are we winning the war, or are the bad actors winning the war?
Well, it's difficult. People are getting compromised a lot. If we look at some of the ransomware things, if we look at some of the examples that we've seen over the last while, there are a lot of these things happening. I think I saw there'd been another one today on the BBC News that a large hotel firm has potentially been compromised. We saw 2 weeks ago Thames Water were allegedly compromised. It wasn't them. It was I think Southeast. I can't remember the name of the firm, so I won't say it. But it was another water firm that had actually been compromised, and so that's a utility firm. That's a software firm. That it does seem like these things are happening a lot, but there are also some fantastic things taking place to help prevent this. So the National Cybersecurity Centre are doing some amazing work to try to stop these things. Any email that purports to be from the HMRC that doesn't match various bits and pieces, they have a system in place where it'll bounce and it'll get sent to their IT people, and it'll be investigated. And they are really, really good at it.
What happens, though, if you lose a lot of people's money as a result of this, or you lose your own money through scammers? I mean, legally, where does that leave you? And can you get it back?
The answer is it depends. It really does depend. We've seen. I actually remember doing an event a couple of years ago, and I was speaking to a company, and they said that they had been the victim of an invoice redirection fraud with a council. And what happened is that somehow someone had found the invoices, so someone had broken into somebody's email. There'd been an issue. They changed the bank account details on the invoices and sent a note saying our bank account details are now X, Y, or Z, and so they were proceeded to be paid, and I think it was £180,000, which is a significant amount of money for any company. You know, no matter how big you are, 180 grand goes missing, and someone will be asking a lot of questions. In some cases, it would be company closing kind of time. You know, that's how much it is.
That's what happens.
And it took them 18 months to get that back. It took them 18 months to get that back, and and so there's those sort of things. Then there are the personal scams as well. So actually, a relative of mine was phoned up and was told that there were 500 hackers trying to attack her IP address at that particular moment in time, and in order to stop it, all she had to do was to set up a bank transfer, which would then be paid between them. And the person on the end of the phone kept them there for 4 hours on the phone. They installed remote access software on their phone and also on the laptop, and watched them while they did the bank transfers.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Really good social engineering skills. You know, that ability to be able to talk to people about those things. You know, it's incredible. And it was only down to the fact that Santander, in this case, were really, really effective at stopping this scam. There were actually tried to be 3 payments of 9,950, just below the 10k limit that causes alarms to go off. Again, they know what UK banks are up to, and then they and thankfully they were stopped. How
are we dealing with cybersecurity in Northern Ireland? How is at the time of recording, there is no no Stormont executive up and running, but how seriously are we taking it here at government level?
So we're in Northern Ireland, we are, firstly, we're very privileged to have a great group of people who are out there doing stuff. Okay, so we're very privileged that we've got the Northern Ireland Cybersecurity Centre. So that's a group of people who are trying to keep the Northern Ireland safe, secure, and a great place to work. And I think is their tagline. I'll be in trouble if I've got that wrong. But then we've also got education. So we've got the Queen's, and we've got UU, who are doing brilliant things, trying to find kind of innovative solutions for cybersecurity problems. You know, led by the team at ESIT. In my view, I think they're fantastic. Then you've got private sector organisations who do things like volunteer. So, you know, a lot of our team volunteer on things like Cyber First, which is designed to get young people into cybersecurity. We go and do talks at various organisations. We try really hard to do it. One of the issues I think that we see is that there is no lead on this from the executive. I think from Stormont, there is no one with a direct line of responsibility for cybersecurity. It's a massive, there's a massive amount of money there. There's a massive amount of people, and it's at the moment, I think it's underrepresented. You know, that it falls in between economy and some in education and some in this and some in that. And actually, what we've got to do is we've got to take a lead on this. And actually, there was a piece recently that myself and my colleague Gillian wrote for the Irish News, all about why this is important.
And what were you calling for? An actual minister?
A minister with responsibility for it. So it doesn't need to be a special minister. It doesn't need to be another person getting paid.
Security minister, who would that be?
I'm not sure I would put my hand up for it, to be honest with you. But it doesn't need to be somebody with that sole responsibility, but with a specific responsibility for it.
What are you most proud of with Vertical Structure?
So, firstly, I'm proud of our team. I think our team are awesome. I love working with them. I love spending time with them. I think they're a great group of people. I'm really privileged to work with them. I'm very proud of the work we do. I think that we do some interesting things, and actually one of the reasons why my business partner and I started the company was to do interesting work with interesting people. That was really, really important to us. It was one of the goals when we first set out. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the work we do. I'm very proud of some of the things that we've been able to do over the years as well. So, for instance, we sponsor our local Gaelic for Mothers and Others team in Hollywood and St Paul's. We sponsor another team for one of the younger teams for that for that as well. Getting people in sport who wouldn't necessarily have been in there before. We sponsor the rugby team locally and the soccer team locally, the football team locally as well. We also sponsor a young man who is, we think he's going to be the next Formula One champion. Chad Lehman, who's going to be brilliant. He's already brilliant, but he's
destined for great things.
He's 10 now, I think,
okay.
Or something like that. So he's got a few years. So I'm very proud that we've been able to bring those things back. We've also sponsored Code Club in Hollywood, so to help young people to get into coding. We sponsor some of the local technology conferences as well, so giving back to the community that's given so much to us. So Northern Ireland Developers Conference, which is taking place soon for anybody who is interested in tech. NI DevConf is a great thing to be part of.
Brilliant.
We've sponsored B-Sides, which is a security conference in Belfast. We really try to be part of our community and to give back to people when we can.
And you really feel now that this is home for you, Northern Ireland. You have made your home and your life.
Without question. And when I talk of home, I talk of Northern Ireland. And my friends in England say that I've got a very Northern Irish accent, and my friends here say I sound very, very posh English. But I always say that my accent's somewhere around the Isle of Man. Is probably what it is. It's kind of 24 years, and in another 24 we'll see how we're getting on.
Well, you're doing great things. And Simon, the purpose of this podcast is to inspire existing business owners and ambitious entrepreneurs to grow their business by offering insight into the success of businesses such as Vertical Structure. The big question: what advice would you give to people who may have a business idea but have no idea where to begin, or are unsure as to whether the risk is worth taking?
Yes, and I was thinking about this, and one of the things I would say is to find someone to join you on that journey. So for me, Mark and I have worked together. Gosh, we started work together in 2000. In that first place, I managed to get a job, and Mark was there doing his HND and on a Friday and working during the rest of the week. Find someone to join you on that journey. So for me, Mark does all the important things in the company. He makes sure we get paid. He makes sure our team get paid. He makes sure our suppliers get paid. He makes sure that we don't go to prison. He makes sure all of the really important things. I go out and I talk to people in podcast studios.
Yeah.
I go out and I meet people.
And Mark's very happy about that too.
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Oh yes, absolutely.
He
Would much rather be looking at spreadsheets and various other bits and pieces.
And if you were in charge of the other, you would be in prison.
I wouldn't be here now. I would.
I'd be coming to visit you.
Be McGabbery.
Yes.
But no, it's one of those things. Finding someone who has complementary skills to yourself. I was actually running some mentoring sessions earlier on with a group of cybersecurity organisations in London, and that's the one message I gave out to people. One of the main messages I gave to people was find someone to come along on that journey with you. So in my case, Mark and I decided we were going to just do it, and we've managed many years later to still be doing it, and it's been class. The other thing I would say is talk about what you're doing with your with people. Find somebody, find a mentor. Give me a call. I'll maybe whatever small bits of advice I can give, I will give. Find somebody to talk to. As I say, I've been very privileged to have a few a few people I would go to for advice and guidance. And you don't need to say, "Will you be my mentor?" You don't need to say those words. You don't need doesn't need to be awkward like that. It's just somebody to say, can I bounce some ideas off you on a Thursday morning while we go for a coffee? Can I talk to you about these things? Or what do you think of this? People have been doing this for many years. Business is not new. Yes, there are new things. Cybersecurity is relatively new. It's different to blacksmithery or something like that. That would have been very big, 100 years ago. But it's not new, and people know about these things. So find someone to go for a chat with. Yeah. I've mentioned a couple of people today that I go to for advice. I think those sort of things are really important.
Yeah, get it out of your head, talk about it, and people are very, very willing to give back.
Absolutely, and they really are. People are so generous with their time, and I think it's also worth giving it a try. You work in a very intensive job sometimes, and if you get 5 minutes just to write your ideas down and then try it out with somebody. Can I help you to do this, and it will cost you X? Can I help you to do this? This sort of thing, and identify who are the right people to talk to.
Do they say a problem shared is a problem halved? You
Yep.
see? So, Simon, you have been a breath of fresh air in the Public Eye podcast, and I have been Googling here multi-factor authentication and moving away from password 01. You heard it here on the Public Eye podcast. Thank you so much to my guest today, to Simon Whittaker from Vertical Structure, for scaring the life out of us, but then reassuring us that there's lots that we can do. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
And thanks for tuning in, folks. See you next time. This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service, for our team using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.